raided a Fair's house for drugs and arrested me as well, so my husband found out and took revenge. Hey Reddit, I never imagined that one fateful night would shatter my life into pieces. My affair partner's home was raided by the police for drug-related activities. I was caught off guard, and before I could understand what was going on, I was handcuffed and taken away with my affair partner. The charges were unclear, but the humiliation was just unbearable. I was so ashamed of myself and confused, but little did I know that it was only the beginning of my downfall. My husband, who had been oblivious to my secret relationship, found out about my arrest. His anger and hurt fueled his revenge, and now I don't know what to do. He absolutely withdrew himself and strictly ordered our family lawyer from helping me out. I was completely unaware that my affair partner was a drug dealer. Now I'm in a very bad situation. The memory of that night still haunts me. Remembering how the cops were pounding on the door to open, flashing lights everywhere, and shouting to maintain order was a scene that I will not forget quickly. That moment changed everything for me. The trauma and stress still remains in my head. Even now, I struggle to process all what has happened within these past few weeks. It's a painful reminder of how quickly your life can change, and karma will hit you hard. My name is Emily, and my husband's name is Wilson. My husband and I are both of the same age. We're 35 years old. But Wilson is 5 months older than I. Wilson and I have been married for 7 years, but soon to be divorced. We both are in the process of getting a divorce. I have been cheating on my husband for a long time now. Let's say 2 years and some weeks. My husband is a very strict person that does not tolerate any nonsense. Having to cheat under his nose for 2 years without being caught was something that still surprises me till now. Don't get me wrong, guys. It's not like I'm proud of what I did. Of course not. I'm very ashamed of myself as I'm writing this right now. My husband's close friends would attest to the fact that Wilson is a very strict person. He does not condone rubbish and doesn't live a reckless life. Wilson and I met 8 years ago at a function. It was a rainy night that fateful day. After the function, those that had cars were able to go home despite the rain. Me and some other people that didn't have any car had to stay back until the rain subsided before going home. There was a heavy downpour and no cab was reachable. That day, Wilson was also present at the function. He had similar issues with me, but he was a little bit better than me. Wilson was waiting for his driver to come pick him up while I was waiting for a cab. That night, Wilson walked up to me and tried to have a conversation with me. At first, I ignored him because I was already getting frustrated for not being able to get a cab that would take me back home, and the rain kept dropping, and it looked like it wasn't going to stop anytime soon. I was already getting cold because I wore an armless dress and didn't carry any jacket with me. Wilson noticed I wasn't comfortable, and so he pulled his jacket and wrapped it around my arm. I tried refusing, but he insisted that I needed it more than he did. I felt guilty immediately for giving him attitude and not answering him properly like I should. I apologized to him, and he told me not to worry. We talked for a while before his driver arrived. Wilson asked where I was heading to so he could give me a ride back home, but I refused. I had just met him for the first time then and wasn't too sure to disclose my location. It was like Wilson knew what I was saying in my head, so he laughed and told me that he won't hurt me or try anything stupid. After much thought, I gave in because it was getting darker and I needed to go home really fast. The last thing I needed that night was to be stranded because it was a long day for me and no cab was going to come at that time, so I decided to go with Wilson. Honestly, I was very scared when I got into the car. Wilson seemed nice and cool, but I didn't let myself be too relaxed when we were on our way to my house. Wilson noticed my discomfort, but he kept asking me to relax. My house was a little bit far. Wilson and I talked through the whole ride. When we got to my house, I offered to give Wilson a glass of wine for my appreciation, but he declined and promised to come by some other time. We exchanged contacts, and they drove off. After that night, I didn't hear from Wilson again. I was the one that gave him my contact. I didn't have his contact or any information about him that I could use to trace him and thank him for what he did. A few days went by, and I didn't hear anything from him. At some point, I stopped waiting for him. Not until a week later did Wilson call. He apologized for not calling or texting like he promised. He explained what happened. Apparently, he had to leave the town the next day after the function because he had an official business to attend to. Wilson and I became so close. We talked on the phone for long hours and texted each other every day. He took me out for breakfast, lunch, and even dinner, all in a very big and fancy restaurant. We went for lots of shopping, went to the cinemas together, and a lot of exciting places. Spending time with Wilson was memorable. He was very fun to be with and knew how to crack jokes, but he was very strict. Wilson knows when to joke and when to be serious. That was one of the things I liked about him. He knows how to balance the two. So Wilson and I spent time together for about a month before he asked me to officially be his girlfriend. We both dated for about a year. I had a lot of fun memories with Wilson. We even went on a lot of vacations together. He really knew how to spoil me. We dated for about a year before he finally asked me to be his wife, which I accepted happily. After our wedding, I moved into Wilson's house. Life was great and everything was moving fine. Wilson didn't stop taking me out or buying me gifts like he always did when we were dating. I was very comfortable because Wilson provided everything I needed. The first 3 years of our marriage was very nice. I was a full-time housewife. I didn't like the idea of me stressing myself to work while he's able to provide all my needs. I didn't lack anything materially or financially because my husband made sure it was available for me even before asking. Wilson made sure I wasn't doing anything that would stress me out. Life then was great because I was being pampered by my husband. But then I was tired of everything, and I was very bored. I was also tired with the everyday routine. It was as if I was going round the circle every day. I wanted to try something new. I talked to Wilson about it, but he seemed not to understand me. He suggested that I should take a break and visit my friends and family. If I ever feel bored, which I did, but it didn't work out for me. My husband asked me to go and figure out what would make me happy, and he would give his support. Wilson was not just a nice guy, but a very supportive husband to me. I was not only lucky to have such a lucky husband, but blessed. Since I get bored doing nothing, I decided to start doing something that would make me leave home for a few hours and then come back home. I wanted to go back to my normal life of going to the office. Don't get me wrong, guys. Staying at home and being fed and giving everything is amazing. But I wanted to make a name for myself and not fully depend on my husband. Anything can happen at any time. I didn't want to be stranded if that happens. I stopped working immediately after Wilson and I got married. He didn't force it on me. It was just a mutual agreement that we had as couples, and when I couldn't keep up with it, he fully gave his support. One day, I patiently waited for my husband to return back home so I could tell him what I decided on doing. When he came back, I allowed him to take a nap before telling him my decision. I told him that I would like to start working, and I told him the list of things I had wanted to do. He agreed and didn't stress further since that would make me feel better. A few days after our discussion, I got an email of a job proposal. I was surprised because I didn't remember applying for anything then. I had only told my husband, but didn't apply for anything. I was curious and kept thinking maybe there was a little bit of mix-up somewhere. When my husband came back home from work as usual, I told him about it and even showed the message. Normally my husband should be surprised or shocked as I was, right? But no, he wasn't. Instead, he smiled at it and told me that it wasn't a mistake and the job was mine. I was confused because I didn't understand what he was saying. After much explanation, it became clear that my husband had used his influence on getting me a job. I was very happy and also impressed by how intentional he was in anything that has to do with my happiness. That was how I got a job without stressing about writing emails or submitting any credentials. A few days later, I started working. The pay was really good, and I enjoyed working there. I started feeling better and didn't feel bored like I used to. Along the line, the work became stressful, but I still preferred it to doing nothing at home. Before I knew it, 2 years of working went by. Everything was amazing. Things were moving fine and smooth. My husband and I even celebrated our 5th wedding anniversary. Wilson and I celebrated it together with family and friends. We had a lot of fun together. Little did I know that everything was going to change after that moment. My husband didn't change, but I did. Before Wilson and I got married, I enjoyed drinking and smoking. It was one of my old habits that I had pushed for a very long time. My husband was a very strict type, and he doesn't condone smoking. Wilson drinks, but not as much as I do. Let's say he's a social drinker. I stopped going to clubs because of Wilson and even quit smoking, but then again, I couldn't control it. Wilson provided everything I needed at home except for alcohol, because he knew how much I loved drinking. So, when I started working, I went back to my old habits. Honestly, it wasn't easy. I couldn't control myself any longer. My husband didn't notice because I did it in moderation, but it got worse one day when I met someone at a bar. His name is Samuel, Sam for short. That night I went to the bar as usual to ease myself from the work stress. I was on my 4th shot when Sam walked up to me. He asked if he could sit with me, which I agreed. We talked about a few random things. Sam even told me how he had noticed my frequent visits in the bar and decided to make friends with me, which I accepted. We even flirted with each other and had a couple of dances together. After dancing, we had a couple of drinks and then we left. I was too tired that night, but I remembered everything. Sam proposed to take me home, but I asked if we could go to his place instead, which he agreed. My husband was out of town that day, so I didn't worry about anything. Sam and I went over to his place and spent the night together. Like I said earlier, I was aware of everything that happened that night. I wasn't drunk. What Sam and I had that night wasn't based on alcohol. We made out that night, and I can say that that was my best night in a very long time. I spent 3 days at Sam's place. My husband was on a work tour which lasted for 2 weeks. At that time, I was the only one left at home. I gave excuses and stayed off work for those 3 days. I can say that Sam was a bad influence on me. My drinking and smoking habits became even worse. Sam and I could stay at home all day drinking, smoking, and making out together. It was fun for me then, but right now I really regret it. Wilson wasn't the type that loved drinking. He didn't match up to that kind of lifestyle I loved. Sam understood me perfectly. When it was nighttime, we went clubbing to the next day, and the list goes on. After spending 3 days at his place, I finally returned back home. The next day was the weekend, so I used it to rest and clean up myself before returning back to work the next Monday. Sam and I continued our unhealthy relationship. Sam had bad companies around him as friends. He introduced me to all of them as his girlfriend. They all welcomed me and even treated me with respect. It seemed like Sam was the leader of their group. I only knew Sam to be a smoker and drinker. Anything other than that I wasn't aware of. I just knew a little information about him. Sam also knew about my marital status. In fact, Sam has been to my house and even spent the night there. He has seen Wilson and I wedding portraits and knows how influential my husband is. Sam knew that much about me, but I only knew a little about him and his life as a whole. My relationship with Sam grew stronger. We kept spending the night at each other's places. During that period, my husband was hardly at home. He was busy with work, from one trip to another. I was very used to it because that was how he's able to fend for me. My monthly income was just a bonus for me. In fact, my money was saved in the bank. I live on my husband's money because it was enough for both of us. Sam and I dated for 2 years. The first year wasn't stressful, but the second year was frustrating. Sam kept asking me for money to settle one problem or the other. If I asked what he was using it for, he wouldn't open up. What surprised me the most was that he always returned the money with interest. Sam wasn't working or doing any business that I was sure of, but he kept spending money. Any day he was left stranded, he always asked for financial support and returned it back. This went on for a while. I didn't really understand what was going on. I tried talking to him about where he usually gets his money from, but he wouldn't tell me. Instead, he would say he sells properties in other cities. Our relationship was based on lies. He never opened up to me like I opened up to him. I told him stuff about myself and the type of work I do. I didn't know that I was dealing with a dangerous guy. Another suspicious activity he did was that he used different bank details in refunding me back the money I lent him. Sam had different SIM cards and phones. When I asked about it, he said he liked having more than 2 phones. I suspected Sam to be doing something more than all what he had been telling me, but I never found anything. Anytime Sam and I had finished making out, I would sneak out of the bed and move around the room to see if I could find anything. His movements were becoming too suspicious, and his wealth was questionable. Sam had nothing to do, but he was earning 3 times more weekly than my monthly payment. I got scared for myself because I didn't want to involve myself into anything or getting into trouble with the cops. Sam had his way of hiding things. The few times I tried searching through his stuff, I didn't find anything implicating. His apartment was too clean, and his things were in order. At some point, I stopped stressing myself because it was making me feel frustrated. One day, I concluded on minding my business. If it wasn't going to hurt me, then there was no need to stress about it. Sam and I usually went to a particular bar along with his friends to a club, but at some point we kept changing bars every 2 weeks. I thought maybe Sam wanted us to have counts on the list of bars we had gone to, and so I didn't think too much about the sudden change. Not until one fateful night that the cops almost caught us. We were at a bar as usual, and before I knew what was going on, there was chaos. Everyone started running out of the bar. I asked Sam what was going on, but he held my hands and dragged me out. Sam and I, with his friends, were running as fast as our legs could carry us. We had no direction, but we ran very fast. We kept hearing the police siren at our back. That day we managed to escape after running to somewhere far away. What saved us was that it was very dark and was difficult for the cops to identify our faces. We also didn't leave anything that could implicate us at the bar. That was how we were able to escape that day. I kept asking Sam a lot of questions, but he didn't give any meaningful answer. He kept making up lots of silly stories that were not even aligning together. We couldn't go back home that night because we had gone very far from town. We looked around to find somewhere safe to sleep. We did manage to find somewhere manageable, and we rested for that night. I was very restless throughout the night. I couldn't sleep. My eyes were opened all through, and my heart was pounding really fast. I have never been chased by the cops ever in my life, and also I have never run that fast before. Within a few minutes, Sam and his friends slept off. I was the only one awake. I was alert in case anything happened. The next morning, we left the place. We walked for a few minutes before we were able to get a cab back home. I went over to the house straight from there. I freshened up and got dressed for work. I went to work and behaved normally and acted like nothing happened the previous night. I tried concentrating on my work, but I couldn't. Everything that happened kept replaying back in my head. Work that day was really difficult for me. I couldn't concentrate, and it felt like I was getting feverish. I went to my boss's office and asked permission to take the day off, which he agreed because I was looking sick. I went back home that day and rested. Sam kept calling and texting me, but I didn't respond to any of it. Of course, I was mad at him for putting me in that kind of situation. I didn't talk to him or go to his place to see him. 3 days later, my husband returned back home from his trip. As usual, he got me gifts and lots of things. Wilson and I spent time together after 3 weeks of being away. It was actually nice, though. Sam and I didn't see each other until after a week. I wanted to spend time with my husband, and also use that opportunity to forget all that happened. I wasn't happy with what happened that evening, and I wasn't scared to vent it out to Sam about it, and even threatened to break up with him. He knew how pained I was, and he apologized, promising to not let that happen ever again. After much pleading, I accepted his apology, and we came back together. We went back to our old habits. But at that time, we stayed at his place more often than going to the bar. Things became normal. I even saw changes in his behavior. Sam at some point stopped asking me for money like he used to. Everything was going well, not until one day I came over to his place with a few things to spend the night with him. Wilson was at home that day, but I gave him the excuse of going to one of my colleagues' place to spend the night. I gave him the excuse of us being paired together at work to work on a project. He agreed and even proposed dropping me off, but I refused and told him not to worry and that I could take care of myself. I left him at home that day and headed over to Sam's place. I met Sam and his friends at home as usual. I had some stuff for us to eat and drink. Sam and I went into the room and left his friends to continue what they were watching before I arrived. Sam said something very confusing. He told me that he would be leaving for the States the next day. His papers were ready, and he just needed to put a few things together before leaving. I asked why the sudden movement, and he said he wanted to visit an uncle of his and promised to return back. I didn't think too much about what he said because it sounded believable. The day was moving fine. We even went to the pool and played some games together with his friends. Little did I know that that day everything was going to change for me, both physically and mentally. After the games, we went inside because it was already getting dark, and also the weather wasn't friendly at all. The temperature was very cold. We put on one of our favorite movies we do watch any time we are together. Just an hour into the movie, we heard car sounds and lots of lights flashing through the window. Before we knew what was happening, we were already surrounded by the cops. We heard one of the cops ordering us to open the door from outside. Sam asked us to relax and told us that he knew how we would escape. Immediately, I asked what was going on, but no one gave me an answer. From the look on the faces of Sam's friends, they knew what was happening. At that point, I was very scared. The cops kept ordering us to open the door, but now made a move. Before we knew it, something was used to push the door open. They ordered us to go on our knees and were handcuffed and taken outside. One of the cops came inside with a piece of paper, which looked like a warrant to raid the apartment for drugs. He showed it to us and ordered a few cops to start the search. At that moment, I knew that truly Sam was into something fishy. It was then I understood why he had told me he was leaving for the States the next day. Sam and his friends wanted to escape after knowing that the town was no longer safe for them. I was just in my own thoughts when the cops came outside with a bag filled with hard drugs. The two other cops came with 2 bags each containing drugs and money. It was at that point everything became clear to me that Sam, who was my affair partner, was a drug dealer. I was very surprised and shocked. I never knew that Sam was that dangerous. He hid all these from me. Only his friends knew about the kind of things he was into because they were part of it. We stood outside for 3 hours under the cold being handcuffed. I tried telling the cops that I was innocent and knew nothing about anything that was going on. He didn't believe me and told me to call my lawyer. Sam and I, along with his friends, were taken to the police station. A lot of drugs were found in Sam's apartment which were implicating. While we were on our way to the station, I kept insisting that I was innocent. I couldn't call my husband because my phone wasn't with me. It was among the evidence that was going to be used at the station. We arrived at the station and were taken to a room for investigation. That was when I was allowed to make a phone call. I called my husband and told him to come to the station. He sounded confused and asked how I got there, but I told him to come over as soon as possible. About 30 minutes later, my husband arrived at the station and demanded to know what was going on. The cops told him how Sam and I with his friends got there. Wilson also asked what happened and how I got into the mess. That was when I confessed to him that I had been cheating on him with Sam, but didn't know that he was a drug dealer. My husband asked me how long that had been going on, and I told him about 2 years. When my husband learned about my secret affair, he was devastated. Wilson's face changed, and he was fuming in anger. He wasted no time and stood up from where he was seated and turned to leave the police station. He denied knowing me in front of everyone and told the police officers to carry out a thorough investigation on me. My husband left me with my fate that night. Not only that, he publicly humiliated me on social media, and his hurtful words pierced my heart. I couldn't believe Wilson could do that to me. Not even in my wildest dreams would I have thought of that. He controlled our finances, leaving me struggling. After the humiliating post on social media, my phone started buzzing. A lot of calls and messages kept coming in. All those that knew me wanted to know what actually happened. Some even made mockery of me. Wilson even went as far as uploading the post on our family group chat, and even the one we were on with friends. The news of my infidelity and the one of me being in the police station kept spreading like wildfire with a lot of captions. It was after I was released after 24 hours that I saw all the posts. My husband spread rumors and even sabotaged my work. To top it all, he filed false charges against me. His revenge left me shattered. Right now, I'm still trying to clear myself from this messy situation. Our family lawyer has refused to help me because my husband ordered him not to. I am currently broke because I lent Sam money to travel out before our arrest. I do not have money for a good lawyer. Update. Hey Reddit, 1 year later and I'm here with an update. It took this long because I wanted to rebuild my life from scratch, and also to take my time to tell you guys all that happened without leaving any details out. A lot really happened, and I can't wait to share. First of all, I'm grateful for all of the comments, both the positive and negative ones. My affair partner, Sam, was into a lot of illegal activities I had no idea about. It wasn't just drugs, and that's why it was difficult to get the cops off my back. I knew about his smoking and drinking habits, but wasn't aware that he was a drug dealer and was part of a secret gang. It was when we got to the station I got to know about all of these. I was literally dumbfounded when I got to know. I couldn't believe that I was going out with a dangerous person. I had to prove to the cops beyond every reasonable doubt that I wasn't part of Sam's illegal activities. It wasn't really easy for me then. To even complicate things further, my husband wasn't even helping the situation. He refused to make statements or prove that I wasn't part of Sam's activities. The moment I needed Wilson most was the time he decided to turn his back on me. My husband used my smoking and drinking habits against me. Yes, I was the type that loved drinking and smoking, but I did that once in a while. Since Wilson wasn't the type that does that, he tried to use my past drinking and smoking habits against me. It took a while and even my parents' interference before the cops stopped calling me in for investigation. I even had to get tested for drugs before I was finally vindicated. Thinking of how everything turned out within seconds made me want to go crazy. My once perfect life shattered right in front of me. The freedom I had was taken away from me. I was restricted in doing the things I loved to do. I had no access to my friends because they lived far away. I thought of how the news was going to break them. At that moment, I didn't know who I was any longer. That was not how I was raised. I grew up with strict parents. I honestly did not know what happened that I turned into someone I wasn't even proud of. I made a promise to myself to change my lifestyle and quit drinking and smoking. I thought of how I had access to money to get whatever I wanted. But at that time, I was restricted and couldn't spend like I used to. I was very lonely. I couldn't see the outside world or had any company then. Through Stacy's constant visits, I was able to feel alive again. Stacy helped me in hiring a lawyer for me after Wilson restricted our family lawyer from helping me. The new lawyer was indeed expensive, but I had to have a lawyer for the divorce. I had no money to even afford his fee because the only account where I actually had money was controlled by Wilson, and he just wasn't ready to help me. Stacy had to come through for me. If it wasn't for her, I would not have a good lawyer to use for the divorce. I thought everything would go back to normal, but I was mistaken. I had to face a very hard divorce trial. It was just from one problem to the other. Wilson filed for a divorce, and I wasn't happy with the terms. My lawyer advised me to take the matter to court. The court case wasn't in my favor at all. I tried my best not to leave the marriage empty-handed, but it felt like nothing was going to work out, and I was just wasting my time. Wilson's lawyer, who was our family lawyer, broke me into pieces. He used my previous arrest in questioning my character, lifestyle, and reckless behavior. He didn't lie. I was guilty of all the things he said to me that day. I kept looking at the man I once loved and thought of how he was breaking me and embarrassing me in court. Tears kept running down my eyes. I couldn't control my emotions. I had wronged Wilson, and he deserved every apology from me. His anger was justified, but then his revenge shattered me. The aftermath of everything had taken a toll on me. The divorce trial lasted almost a year. Wilson and I signed the divorce papers, and we got separated. I went over to the house and packed all my remaining belongings. After I was done packing, my ex-husband didn't want to have anything to do with me at all. Wilson wanted to keep me away from him and his property. I had nothing left on me after the divorce. The little money I had, I used it in settling the lawyer's charges and also refunded Stacy. I was left penniless. Everything just seemed like it was against me, including the divorce. I know I messed up, but I would have never imagined that Wilson would treat me in such a condescending manner. The same man that treated me with absolute love before turned around to act like I was the worst human being he had ever met. Words can't even describe how his actions have made me feel. Until this day, I can't help but shiver any time I remember how he treated me. Right now, I'm still trying to find myself. When I thought everything was finally over, the news of our divorce made its way to our group chats. All the comments got me really depressed. Wilson wouldn't stop damaging my name even after divorce. He enjoyed seeing me getting talked about. Everything that happened between Wilson and I, and also with Sam, showed me the darkest side of human nature, but also my own strength. So far, I have been able to get myself back together. It wasn't like it used to be, but then I'm grateful for growth. After my release, I lost my job because of the circumstances surrounding my arrest. Even when I was proven innocent, my boss still sacked me. Until the trends of my arrest and infidelity subsides, I don't think I would be able to secure any job right now. I have been walking from one company to another, but nothing good has been coming out of it. It's so frustrating, but then again, there's nothing I could do. I can't stop people from talking. Life is very hard right now. The aftermath of everything is really affecting me. It has not only damaged my image, but also my reputation. I can no longer walk freely on the street or do the things I used to do. Everything has changed for me. And yes, I am still trying to quit drinking and smoking. It wasn't easy at first, but there's an improvement with the help of a therapist. After my divorce, it was as if I was going crazy. I had to see a therapist, and it's really helpful. I lost everything within a twinkle of an eye. Life has taught me a very big lesson.